Please excuse the background, okay? I'm currently moving, so there's just like empty boxes everywhere. Make yourself comfy. It's time for story time. I feel like I'm actually going to learn a lot about my own goddamn family.
Are you superstitious whatsoever?
No. I feel like if it's something that can make you feel a bit better about something, it's definitely worth doing it. If you believe in it, it's worth it. But I don't think it's something to live your life by.
From the stories that I've heard, it feels like it's a true story. Let's go back into a bit of history. This is when my dad was still alive.
My dad passed away from liver cancer. He passed away maybe when I was like 12 or 13.
So that was such a long time ago. We're dating back around about maybe 15, 17 years ago. So it was a considerable amount of time. So when my dad was alive, he has a younger brother. And his brother died also due to cancer. The cancer was lung cancer. And you know, you hear about all these stories all the time. People have cancer and it runs in the family. And at the time, my dad is healthy. I need to reinstate that my dad never falls ill. He's one of those type of person that never gets sick, never go to doctors. In typical Asian, they don't check themselves until there's a problem. So they went back to Vietnam. My grandma, she is the type of person that's worshipped by a lot of Vietnamese people in my community because she's known as the, what would you say, ghost whisperer?
Clairvoyant.
She's a clairvoyant. Apparently that's what it's called. But basically, she calls back the dead. The people go and pay her loads and loads of money for her to basically pray on their behalf, call back the spirits, wish them good luck. I don't know whether that is a con, to be honest. In my mind, I always thought, this is the way she is hustling. She's a bad bitch hustling, and that's how she makes her money. Because in Vietnam, you don't really have a job, you don't have a career. 15 years ago, job opportunities were very limited. Your crops and everything is from the fields.
Especially where we're from. We're from like the outskirts of Vietnam.
Yeah, we're country girls. She was hustling and that was her baby. I remember when I was in Vietnam, all of a sudden she went, something's good not going to happen to you. She went to get some special water and you know incense that has burnt, she picked that up and she put it in the water and she mixed it and she goes, drink this.
Oh my God!
I remember that moment so vividly because I'm from the UK. I don't see her often. To me, even though she's my grandma, she was like a complete stranger. It's quite sad to admit, but that was the case. But I felt so scared and I just felt like she looked like someone that, you know, you better not touch and quite spiritual, a bit scary. May I add, Vietnamese people back in the day, they used to eat this like crop where it's called voi. So they put in some sort of leaf, they have like a white chalk and it's some sort of fruit where they eat it, their teeth goes all black.
It's like a form of like a drug, I'm guessing.
It's known for like mouth cancer and everything. A thing that all old women used to eat back in Vietnam and that was the first time I saw it. So every time when she's like telling me, all I can look at is those black teeth. And when she's like, drink this, I drank it. It was disgusting. But that was a moment that I remembered.
Come on, girl, you filmed for 5 minutes now. Get on this damn story.
I don't even remember the story now. On this occasion, my mum and dad went back to Vietnam. She done a spiritual reading and she called everyone in the room. She was calling back people from the dead. And my auntie and everyone is surrounded, sitting in a circle. And then one of my auntie went, she got possessed. This girl, she started crying. She's like,
terrible cry.
The girl started crying and saying, I've waited for so long for this moment to be able to tell you what's going on, express how I feel. I've been hating you guys for over 2 decades of my life. And I'm finally here. She explained the backstory regarding to what caused her death. You guys may not know this, but she pointed to this auntie. Because of you, you killed me. Oh, that's the reason why I'm coming back for revenge. There's something called that's a bad Vietnamese, which is like the 13 layers of like hell. She said that she put on this curse because back in the day, in our culture, you can't have sex before marriage and it's forbidden if you have a child out of wedlock. My aunt, she fell pregnant before she was married. She's actually married to the husband now. She hid the pregnancy for 9 months. No one knew because she's like this really skinny frail woman and she just wore baggy clothing. Like, during the night, she went into labour. She went like the outdoor toilet. So we didn't have like bathrooms inside the house back in the day. It was like toilets that's way outside of the house, especially because, you know, there's no drainage system whatsoever. And she gave birth in that toilet. And what she did was she went to the fields and chucked this baby in the fields. That is so sad, right?
Yeah.
And no one knows about this. So it was all revealed during that spiritual reading. Obviously, the aunt had to confirm that it's true. She confessed up that, yeah, this is what happened. The girl was crying. She said that, you don't know what happened to me. I had ants going all over my face, eating me alive. I suffered so much. And here I am, coming back. And I put this curse upon your family. So there's 3 curses in the family that will always keep carrying on every 3 years. Said the first curse that's happened is I put it on the youngest brother. So he's already dead. So that is Dad's youngest brother. He died of lung cancer, what I mentioned earlier. She said that 3 years later, someone else is gonna die. A couple of days later or whatever, they just forgot about it. My aunt, she also does like card readings, so tarot readings. This is the aunt that her husband passed away. They were doing a tarot card reading on my mum. My mum picked up the card and showed it to my aunt. And my aunt just went, oh, this is the exact same card that my husband, when he was alive, he picked. And it was such a bad luck card.
Oh no.
It means your partner or someone's gonna die. My mum's like thinking, this is impossible. My husband's been healthy all his life. He's never had to go to a doctor. He's never been ill. They just brushed it off. Fast forward onto exactly 3 years since my uncle's death. My dad died on the exact same day. 3 years apart as what is described by that spiritual reading. Isn't that scary? That's spooky, right? The story of how my dad passed away. All of us, we was in Florida at the time. We was on holiday. My dad was at home with my brother. And then my brother calling my mum and saying, Dad is just feeling unwell and he's been very grumpy. I can't live with him. And basically, you know, I'm going to leave the house. While we was in America, we heard the news that my dad had cancer.
I hardly even remember Florida. I remember like little glimpses, but I do remember that we had to rush back.
Within 2 months, he died. At first, they said that if it's a cancer where they can just cut it and remove it, hopefully he'll be fine. We've done an MRI scan. The MRI scan said that it spread all over his liver. He had 6 months to live, basically. At the time when he was going through cancer over here, my grandma, she went to another spiritual reader and then she went to a medical doctor who said to us, there's a cure over in Vietnam. If we can't cure it out in the freaking Western world, how is Vietnam that advanced to cure this cancer? And she's like, she believes in all these natural remedies and holistic point of view. Obviously, my mom, she felt devastated that if there is this opportunity over in Vietnam to save my dad, and if we didn't give him that last hope, because he really believed that Vietnam could potentially be his saviour. We paid over 10 grand for his flight to Vietnam. He had to sit in first class and obviously he couldn't sit alone. He has to have another person. And me, my boyfriend at the time, I don't know if you was there.
I remember I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral because my passport expired. So I was the only one in the family, along with my sister-in-law, who couldn't go to the funeral.
We had to get the doctors to sign a medical note to say that he was well enough to travel to Vietnam. He wasn't well enough, but they said that because it's his dying wish, they would go by what he wanted in a holiday to celebrate his life. So they signed it off. In my head, I'm thinking, this is all a lie. It's impossible. But we had to carry on with the lie just to comfort my dad. I remembered when we landed in Vietnam, my grandma, and then they took us to this location where this special doctor was, where he apparently cured someone in a similar situation to my dad in the past. He said, lay my dad down. And my dad was still conscious. He could still speak and everything. He can't walk, but he had a really big belly and he had jaundice. Jaundice is when you're really yellow. It's a sign that you have liver damage.
Remember his skin turned all yellow and his eyes turned so yellow.
So they laid him on the bed and this guy, he took out 4 injections and he injected him on his belly. And after that, he was unconscious. He couldn't move anymore, he couldn't react, he couldn't respond to any of the questions that we have. He stayed there and we couldn't do nothing. We were like, no, we had to take him back to my grandma's house. So we ended up having another 3 hours drive back to my grandma's house. Once we was back at my grandma's house, he was unconscious, he can't respond to what we're asking him. But there's this one song that he kept singing over and over again. Really? I don't know if you heard like a Chinese or like a Vietnamese song where they go, ah, I don't know, it's really spooky. He wouldn't say anything else. He wouldn't respond to anything, but he kept singing that song. And that song, you only sing it when you're about to die. So, you know, at like an Asian funeral, Vietnamese funeral, they will play this sort of instrument and this sort of song that is, if I can find it, I'll include it. But they sing this melody.
It's like chanting.
Oh my God, you're giving me the shit. He was just singing this non-stop. One day, he just pissed and shit himself. He closed his eyes. I remember that moment so vividly when they said that basically he's gone.
Did you see his last breath?
We were by his side when he took his last breath. It was a really sad moment. So obviously we knew about this curse that's happening. We had to hire monks. We have like something called a war. You see in Asian films, they have this yellow paper. Has that writing and everything on it. It writes like a curse or writes like a saying. I don't know what it's called in English again. And we had to go to the most specialist monk.
We paid a lot of money.
It was at least like $5,000 to hire. I think 18 monks or something like that. And within breaking the curse, they had to write a piece of paper for each of the family member that was close to him. So you had one, I had one, my mum had one, and we had to keep this piece of paper safe. And we had to bury it somewhere so that no one can touch it. Normally, when someone passes away, you welcome the spirit back to come and visit. But this piece of paper said that he's forbidden to go near us, go anywhere within reach, stay far away. We had to keep this for 3 years. My mum was so scared. She didn't want to give it to us personally. She had to hide it away because she was concerned that, say, oh, you might lose it. We had it buried somewhere, like, dig in the dirt in Vietnam so no one can touch it. I don't know if you know about traditional burials in Vietnam. It is freaking spooky. You bury the person and you wait normally 3 years, and within the 3 years your body would have decayed by then, and you'll only be left with the bones that's left in the burial site. There's certain timings that you have to go back and dig out the bones, and I remember it was like spooky fucked up hours, like between 3 to 6 a.m. when the sun doesn't shine, there's no daylight, and you have to dig out the body. They attempted to dig out my dad's body 3 years later. They said that because he had so much medication within his system, it took a lot longer for the body to decay. When they opened it, his flesh was still there, and they had to bury him again. We had to wait another 2 years. Well, I need to rewind back to the day of his funeral. I remember the night before my dad died, I saw like a ray of light shining from the bottom of the floor all the way to the sky, like a flashlight. Remember the night before, my grandma said that something's going to happen tomorrow. Apparently old people can see the dead. They saw like spirits. Someone's coming here to collect another spirit that's still alive. My dad passed away the day after that. At the funeral, it was so nice and sunny. We've been there for like maybe a week. There was no rain. It was sunny, so hot. So when they put the body into the coffin, that exact moment, all of a sudden, rained so heavily. And it's not one of those rains where it's like dribbling. Bright sky, pissing down with rain. Then when they shut the coffin, all of a sudden the sun come out again. Oh. Isn't that fucking spooky? And I saw that with my own eyes. That's just a coincidence, but it does make me question, like, that is fucking some freaky shit. And everyone was saying that this is God shedding his tears to say that this is a life that shouldn't have gone, but it went too early. It wasn't his time to go. Even though it's 3 years after my uncle, he also died on the day that a Vietnamese Prime Minister, his name is Mac Ho, he's the one that won the Vietnamese War. He died the same day that my dad died. My dad passed away when he was 47. He was still young. When you think about it, I don't know whether it's believable that this curse has happened. It's just so many coincidences. The 3 years apart, exactly the same day. The card reading when I picked it up to predict that he's going to die.
So was someone else meant to die?
Anyone in the family. So if we didn't have that monk to stop the curse, it's every 3 years is someone going to die. So after my dad died, I remember my mum vividly saying to me, if your dad comes back in your dream and call you to follow him, make sure you do not follow him. And I remember my sister-in-law, she had a dream. She said that she couldn't see my dad, but she sensed his presence. He was pushing someone underwater, drowning them in the bathtub. And she was so freaked out about it. She couldn't see him, but she just knew that it was him drowning that person. And then she woke up. What they say within this curse is he's going to be taken downstairs to the hellhole, and they're going to torture him, do everything to tell him to come back and take another life. If you follow his spirit, you are going to be the next person. Follow the curse.
That is so scary, guys. Honestly, this story is like, I hear it all over again. Obviously, I heard drips and drabs of it, but when you hear it all in a story time, you're like, oh my god, it's so scary. And I don't know if I believe in ghosts. I tell you guys that I believe in like fortune tellers and stuff like that, but anything to do with spirits, I'm like, oh, I just want to put my head in the sand, and I just don't want to admit to it. I do feel like certain countries are more spiritual and they have more deaths, like, especially in Vietnam. Like, they had a whole war there. There's definitely going to be more spirits or something there.
I don't know whether I believe it or not, but that raining part, exactly when my dad was put in the coffin, and when they closed the coffin, all of a sudden the sun comes out. That is freaky to me. Also, the night before he passed away, I saw that shining white light from the floor to the sky, and I saw that person in myself. And I just think, oh, it could be a coincidence.
It's like all freaky though, all happening together.
And the chanting thing, for 3 days he was chanting this. Okay, you find it on your phone.
No, I don't want to bring death up in here. If I'm completely honest, I wasn't very close to him.
She was so young when it happened.
Yeah, I was so young.
Because of the ending of the story, it was something that ingrained in me. It's bad to see my dad, and therefore I never thought about him. And I think that's quite sad, actually, when you think about it, because one of your loved ones passed away, and it's meant to be like quite a traumatizing experience, and then you're forbidden to talk or think about him because of this underlining curse. My whole entire family and generation, everyone believed it. You think you should believe it as well? Now, when I think about it, I don't know whether it's true or not, because we haven't seen a reoccurring, but they say it's because we called the monk. Now you never know. If there was another, say, exactly 3 years someone else passed away, it would have been like, whoa.
Yeah. Let us know if anything crazy like that has ever happened to you, and do you guys believe in spirits and ghosts? The Vietnamese culture, like if someone passed away, like there's so many rules along with it, like you can't celebrate for a whole year. Everyone had to come and visit.
You had to basically stay by the dead body. 7 days, I think, maybe. 3 days.
The immediate family has to stay by the body for 3 days straight while everyone comes and mourns.
It is very traumatic. Over here, when someone passes away, they put you in a little freezer. I don't know what it's called. Then they will take you to the funeral home where they'll put makeup on you, and you don't see this whole entire process. So you'll never see the body decaying. But can you imagine being in Vietnam? They don't have any of that facility. He passed away in my grandma's house. You can imagine the heat, the moisture, everything makes the body decay more. And I remember liquid was like seeping outside of the mattress, and they had to move his body from one mattress to another. It's just like quite a traumatic experience. Having a body there for 3 days where you are going there praying and then you're hearing all this chanting and they play music for the 3 days. I remember this was so funny. They also had to hire people to cry for that 3 days as well. So we had to sit by the bed for 3 days straight. We're not allowed to go anywhere. You only can leave to go to the toilet. All that 3 days you had to cry. When they take you to the burial site, the people behind had to like mourn and cry behind the casket all the way to the burial site. There has to be a long trail of people, and those people had to cry and mourn. They had to hire people to do that. But that's tradition in Vietnam, because you meant to make it look as if it's like a very traumatic time. Technically, you know, when you cry, you just like...
You wouldn't be constantly crying.
That was the emphasis. You had to do that.
So that is the story of how my dad passed away. I know a lot of you guys ask questions about my dad. It's really hard because we've grown up here. We're quite westernized. So hearing all these stories is so crazy, right? But back in Vietnam, that is tradition. That's just what they know. That's what everyone kind of does.
We don't know if it's true or not. There's theories behind it. People believe in it or not. Do you believe in it? That's the question.
Yeah.
But I hope that's a very interesting story and food for thought for you guys.
You guys got to know a little bit more about me and my sister's family.
Tell me whether do you believe this story or not?
Do you believe in spirits? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in reincarnation? Like, I feel like I just don't know anything, so I would love to hear your point of view. I think that's it for this video, guys. We've been filming for 34 minutes.
Oh, I hope it all makes sense and I'm not repeating myself. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's vlog. We just want to say bye and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to our story.
We'll see you guys in our next one.
Bye. Bye.